It's our annual meeting. It's exciting. The nominating committee, Mr. Strange.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. The nominating committee would like to recommend as chairman Lisa Murphy, as vice chairman Joe Strange, as treasurer William Brunke, as secretary David Byrne, and as assistant secretary Taylor Franklin.
Thank you. Do I hear any other nominations? Sir?
Oh, traditionally, we've appointed the Director of Economic Development as an assistant, as a second
Okay,
assistant
would you be
secretary.
willing to serve as this also? Thank
Delighted
you
to
very
serve,
much.
Madam Chair.
Any other nominations? And hear a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Lisa?
That was second. I did.
Two of them.
Thank you.
You want me? Okay. I'd like for you to. Thank you, Joe, and you were helped by Peter.
Peter.
Bueller,
He was actually the chairman.
before he left, yes. He had another month or so. I appreciate you doing it. Regular meeting approval, okay. Can I have a approval of the minutes, please, of August 18th?
Move to approve.
Second? You all are really cooperative today. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We wanted to talk about our EDIP to Purex on the amount of $120,000.
Financial
Sir?
Financial position first.
Okay,
Madam Chair.
I'll be quick, I promise.
thank you. It's a quick meeting.
Morning, everyone. We can go over the financials for the authority prior month. First page should be your operating account activity. Fairly large amount of activity happening in the month of August. We begin the month with $4.5 million of operating funding on hand. We had a little bit of interest we earned on the account, over $2,400 coming in the month. For your disbursements, you'll see the $13,000 disbursement to Global Links for their management of the conduit. Will be reoccurring each month. Below that, we had the stipend issuance for the commissioners for their attendance. This is for the second half of the 2020 fiscal year, so January through June. And roughly that's most of the activity we had in the month. So $4,514,602 operating funding at the end of August. Any questions you may have had on those? Move to the incentive program. Covering the month of August, over $6.6 million of cash on hand. For your receipts, just the interest income we earned, over $700 coming in on the checking account. For your disbursements, we had a Part B award of our redevelopment awards to Hyatt Place, Pembroke Park. That's a partial payment over $10,000 they received for the capital investment they've made within the city. Below that, under Part E of our program for the COVID-19 response, we had over $96,000 worth of payments that were issued for the full awards. There were 14 different grant recipients, 12 of them received for rent assistance, 1 for health and dental assurance assistance, and 1 for utilities for those awards that were paid out. You should also have a more detailed listing for each of the recipients on your tablets as well. Below that, we have a partial payment of a state opportunity fund payment that went to LifeNet, $483,000. This is funding that's been received by the Development Authority. We've held until our state partners give us approval for the documentation that they received to make a partial payment. So with this award, there was $350,000 that was issued to LifeNet for the capital investment that they've made, and the remaining $133,000 was for the workforce expansion they had at various sites through the city. And then finally, under that, for the bio initiative, we have our monthly recurring rent payment for the accelerator. This is for the month of September, $10,000. So you have ending cash $6,060,874. Carry over to our next page. Also on your tablets for our available funding. We have no change in our receivables for the authority, so those are maintained from the prior month at $7.9 million. We've adjusted our payables and commitments for the awards and payments that were made during the month. So we have available EDIP, $2,040,477 as of the end of.
Did you want some musical accompaniment?
Dance also.
I'll see what I can do. Anyone have any questions on the incentive program? Yes, sir.
Backing up one page, on the Part E, can you tell us the total dollar amount awarded to date and the number of recipients to date?
I can find the exact numbers for you. I believe we have 300 different grants that have been approved so far. For the exact dollar amount, we're somewhere in the $2.1 million range, but I'll find the exact number.
I was looking for the paid portions. We all know what was approved. Just trying to get a sense as to how these payments are coming along.
I can tell you for the amounts that have been paid, we have $341,634 has been expended so far for the overall program. It's roughly 45 different grant recipients received, but I can find that exact number.
341,000 out of 2.1 million.
I believe so. I'll find the exact numbers again for you.
When are they going to be paid, the rest of them that have been approved?
Madam Chair, if I may,
I wish you would.
in just in two items, I'm going to take a deeper dive into this exactly and offer a road to wrap that I think will wrap this up. That Alex and our new chair and I collaborated on at the end of last week. That I think will wrap this up fairly quickly.
Thank you.
We would like to get it wrapped up so we wouldn't get the phone calls. People are really need the money.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you. Request for approval of a resolution authorizing EDIP for Prufex in an amount of $120,000. Mr. Adams.
Do the same thing Sean just did. I'm learning that I can't, that my glasses and this mask don't work well together, so I got to take one off to wear the other. But here is this is a somewhat unfortunate circumstance, but something for which I think we have a road forward. Quickly on the disclosures, I'll also add to that, it should have been included, Kaufman Noel serves as the attorney for the firm. About the company, German-based manufacturer of electronic ignition devices. Their U.S. headquarters did not move from Gainesville, Georgia. I apologize for that. That's a mistake that we have there. We were their first location in the United States. Virginia Beach selected as the manufacturing facility. They're on Quality Court. At that point, we projected capital investment of $5.7 million, 47 jobs, with a stretch goal of 60 at an average salary of $44,240. At that point, there was a $120,000 Commonwealth Opportunity Fund grant that was made that we offered, that we matched at $120,000. Important to note before we go with this conversation next, based on not just the initial projected capital investment, but on capital investment in jobs created today, this company would have qualified for $317,448. Here are some of the challenges that we are facing with this one. Upon receipt of the funds from the Commonwealth, the decision was made at the time to advance the funds from both the Commonwealth and from the city prior to performance. The company's growth was slower than expected early on, and so if we were to back up 3 years, where the capital investment was coming along nicely, the jobs were not growing nearly at the rate that the company had projected. Let's just call this learning the American market and really recognizing that oftentimes when international companies come here, there's no specific footprint or roadmap that guarantees success. It's a new market in a new country with a new culture, and that's got to be learned. And so certainly there are means that we have at the local level, but also at the Commonwealth by way of extensions to grants that that could have been sought at the time. There was an administrative mistake on our side back in 2017 and 18, where the deadlines to apply for those extensions came and went, and I was not here then, so I don't know that it's productive for me to even speculate on how that happened. Just to say that for the record, we did not apply for those. We did not apply for those extensions. We are at a point now where we are 2 fiscal years beyond the point where the Commonwealth closed this grant out, and they are demanding their money back. Also, what I can tell you is our contract with the Commonwealth suggests that I should go pursue the company for this. In conversations with the company, what I can tell you is 2 things. One, where this is a company that was slower finding their way in the United States than they had originally planned. They have found their way now. They have invested the majority of this $5.7 million. They do have the 44 jobs. They have vacant positions, and they're continuing to grow, and they're continuing to add contracts. So this company is now an important part of our local manufacturing landscape, and they are a great corporate citizen here in Virginia Beach. For me to go demand this money from them at this point would likely result in them leaving our community. The other, and I will tell you, not speaking for him because he is not with us, but this last February, when I met with the CEO of the company in Germany at their headquarters, he all but said that was the case, that their experience here has been slower. It's going well now, but that kind of hit to working capital at this point in the life of the company would be problematic. So we're trying, but it doesn't remove our obligation to get the Commonwealth their money back. Also, it's important to note that the decision to distribute the money to the company before performance was made here in our own office. Just so you all will remember that in your most recent update to the EDIP policy at my request, and at the request of staff and the city attorney, you have removed my ability to advance grants prior to performance going forward. So I can also tell you, this is a one-time problem that we won't be dealing with again. How would we like to move forward? Well, because we know that to ask the company for this money likely results in them leaving Virginia Beach. We have paid out our 120, and they have performed to the 120. My request here would be to do a business retention, EDIP. The thresholds under Part A work based on the capital investment that they have made and the jobs that they have created. And then what we would do simply is we would use that award to satisfy our obligation to the Commonwealth and to close this out. Now, with your approval, the other thing that would have to happen is, and I will tell you, the company has been great end of last week, first part of this week, providing documentation to demonstrate that this capital investment and these jobs have been created in a way that satisfies our accountant, Sean. But so I would say, as we make this request for a business retention grant in the amount of $120,000 exactly, that also a part of that be that the company demonstrate that they have conclusively produced the capital investment in jobs that would be required to satisfy, from a capacity standpoint, to satisfy that award for us. But then that would close this out once and for all, and it would allow us to retain what is a very important part of our manufacturing landscape now. I'm happy to take questions.
Questions?
Taylor, do we have a total now of the capital invested in the jobs created?
So 44 jobs at present, 7 vacancies. I want to say that we're at 5.48 in that neighborhood right now, but we'll hit the 5.7 pretty quickly.
Which entity was responsible for filing for an extension if they wanted an extension?
So the contract with the Commonwealth is with the city and the VBDA, so it's on us to apply.
It was our responsibility to offer the extension.
Now granted, let me say, we would work with the company to pull that together. As when we bring you all extensions, as you all know,
Sure.
we work with the company to pull that together, but at the end of the day, the contract with the Commonwealth is our contract.
And as you said, that our old policy allowed the director the discretion to pay out an award before performance. And that was one of the things that the city auditor identified as an issue in our prior policy.
That's right.
So that has been addressed.
And that gap has been closed. And so we don't anticipate this is an issue going forward. But it is important to note, for that. I mean, that it was within the discretion of the department and the authority to make that decision at the time. What we did, and I'm sure that when it happened, the thought was that we basically just wanted to make this company's introduction to our country as smooth as possible and help them get started. That said, you know, fast forward, with the luxury of hindsight, we can see that there are some challenges to that.
Had we applied for the extension, would they have satisfied the requirements at that point, or did they need more time anyway?
So that's a great question. We and Alex and Sean can both tell you, we've had some somewhat, let's just call them involved conversations with our colleagues in Richmond over this one, because the company is now performing. It required a second extension, which they tell us they have never given. But with a second extension, the company would have performed, would have performed at a level to receive something. Because it's important to note, DDP also has had quite a bit of change since this grant was first awarded 5-6 years ago. And so they now allow for basically at closeout sort of progress payment on what you did accomplish. So, so we had a local manufacturer who also, something that we worked on right about the time I got here, we had a local manufacturer that lost in the neighborhood of $300,000 from the Commonwealth. And in that situation, what happened was if I'm remembering the numbers exactly right, that manufacturer was on the hook to create 70 jobs. Manufacturer created 300 jobs, but they weren't at the salary threshold that the Commonwealth was looking for, so they gave no money to that manufacturer. I don't mind telling you, we took them to task for that but they did not move. Since then, even the Commonwealth has amended their policy to be to provide better recognition for what it takes to come to this country, particularly from Europe, where construction standards are different, where employee laws are different, and where also contracts can be a little harder to come by.
My last question, given the lack of performance over not only the initial period, but the potential extension if it had occurred, has there been any discussion about participating or cost sharing in this obligation?
There has, and I would tell you that conversation is ongoing. I understand that as I'm standing here in front of you asking for this today to satisfy our issue with the Commonwealth, that the odds that of me completing that and getting some participation from the company after this decision is made are remote, but we're continuing that conversation. The company has been a good partner for us. The big issue for this one, though, is, we're essentially at the point where the Commonwealth, our time with the Commonwealth has expired, and they are demanding this money back. And so, that said, though, we do think that there is an ongoing conversation with the company.
Were you referring to cost sharing with the state or cost sharing with the company?
Cost sharing with the company.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like the fact that you are flexible and there is an understanding of coming to another country, the land contract, et cetera. But we also have to look at the fact that there's money to give to other companies. And I think cost sharing is I think it's reasonable. And also the fact that they're still not at their, I don't think they're at their, what their second extension would have been anyways, right? In their deficit there.
That's accurate, yes, sir.
So why don't we cost share under a payment program until they at least reach that threshold? It gives them motivation or more encouragement. And for them to walk away from, let's say there's $50,000 on the table, I don't think they'd be a good partner anyways. I mean, you know, I can't imagine uprooting a company for, let's call it $50,000.
So, yes, ma'am.
I think perhaps no one here at this table, except maybe Joe and I, was here when the original award was given. I think that they were promised something, maybe I understand, different than what they got. And so you have to understand that. It won't happen again, will it?
No, ma'am, it won't happen again, and there's something that the chair said.
We are obligated to repay this no matter what.
So what I will tell you is I've got to pay the Commonwealth back, so that's got to happen. The question is, what do I do after that? And I will, of course, go wherever you all send me.
Your motion?
Well, I think to Mike's point, it's fair to continue to try to seek some sort of contribution or reimbursement. I don't think we have a choice now. We've got to pay the state back, and we don't have the money from the company. So this is the way to do it in the short term, but I think it's fair to ask them.
And so, Alex, is that something that could be reflected on the record as part of this award?
I can amend the resolution. Are there specific milestones, or is it just direct him to continue to?
It's kind of ambiguous.
I'm hearing you want me to work for up to half? Kind of, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think underpayments until they meet their threshold. I mean, it'd be fantastic if they met their threshold.
Yes, sir.
Maybe I don't understand, and maybe you've said, but it sounds to me like it's the Commonwealth that is being kind of a stickler to detail. I mean, I can't imagine that the Commonwealth is that concerned about $120,000.
So this is where the Commonwealth is an important partner for us, and so, well, I don't mind telling you, there's been a lot of conversation on that point specifically, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brown, excuse me.
No, that's okay. So in other words, you're saying if you don't pay them back, then they won't partner in the future? They'll just turn their back on Virginia Beach's economic development?
I think it's a little more than that. We have a contract that obligates me to pay them back, and so we're in default.
Okay, all right.
Well, could we vote on the motion, and if you want to amend it? Mr.
You can
Oh,
vote.
no.
The resolution is written, just speaks to making the award. If you'd like to add some sort of repayment obligation with a report back, I certainly can change that.
Can we vote on the resolution first? Do I hear a motion on the resolution?
Motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Pass it. Now, if you want to add another amendment to it, or another.
Dot, were they promised something that we're not understanding?
Yeah.
Yes. I think
alluded to
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that would be.
I'm not
more
gonna
clarity
say,
for me
but you
personally.
ask our attorney, things were different.
This company was recruited for I will tell you, as I read the file, our local recruitment of this company focused on specific volumes in production from specific places that did not materialize. And they had to basically punt and figure it out. And what I will say in their defense is, they have figured it out and are charging forward and have added some nice contracts in the last 18 months in particular. That's probably as far as Alex would let me go with comments on that topic standing here today, but that's,
On tape,
Oh,
yes.
and how far are they off from meeting their obligation?
I think we're within 6 months.
I mean, you know, I just have a hard time just forgetting things, and I understand, Ms. Wood, that, you know, things were promised, but if they're there, I think a minimum half, pay it over 5 years, it's $10,000, you know, or whatever it is, a year, you know, and as soon as they meet their obligation, we get rid of it.
So how about this, Taylor? What if we give them the 6 months to meet the obligations, and if they don't, then we've got
That's fine.
the ability to have them contribute, right? So we think they're gonna get there, they're pretty close. Let's give them 6 more months, and if they don't get there.
Sure.
How is that memorialized? We just passed a resolution, just giving.
No, we're giving, that was the resolution for the state.
We're gonna pay the state back.
I think Alex would tell you he needed a motion to amend what you all just approved.
So if you,
Consistent with what we just said, and he'll have to figure out how to write that down.
we can amend the just approved resolution to say that have they not fully satisfied their capital investment and job obligations as set forth in the original Commonwealth Opportunity Fund grant within 6 months, that we at that point will pursue a partial repayment.
That's it.
Okay, that's good.
So I'd move that we amend resolution, as Alex just indicated.
While it's on the table, why don't you just can we be specific about the word partial repayment means? I hate to get into minutia, but just be done with it. 50% over X amount of years, whatever it is, 5 years.
And also recognize, we'll owe you a report back on our progress here.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Madam Chair, if I may just thank you. I know that was a challenging conversation, but very much appreciate the support and the direction from the authority.
Thank you. The next one is a resolution, may I have a motion, request approval of resolution authorizing amendment of prior Part E resolutions to expedite payment of awards.
Okay, so as you all just heard, call it 4.5 months, almost 5 months into EDIP Part E, we've gotten about $300,000 out the door, which is not nearly good enough considering we've got 300 approved grants, totaling almost, well, better than 80% of our potential capacity. And so appreciate, just want to offer thanks to our then Vice Chair, now Chair, Ms. Murphy, for engaging in this conversation with us at the end of last week to try to find a way to expedite payment. And so Alex and I worked on this starting Thursday evening, but also Friday and a little bit yesterday as well. And I think we have a road forward that will wrap this up fairly quickly. There is precedent in your small purchase procedures where this body has made a designation that the cost of administration and outweighs the value of our process. And so I think that may be where we are with this group. So the grants that you've approved, all have been reviewed by our city auditor. What I can tell you is, with the exception of the 3 cases that we identified on the way to Lyndon's office, one of those being related into the other 2 being not-for-profits, we found no structural weaknesses in the pool. And what am I saying is a structural weakness? We found nothing that would ultimately affect the eligibility of the company and the value of the award. What we're spending all of this time doing is gathering to the level of precision that basically makes a perfect file the documents that are required to execute this transaction. In some cases, we've reached out to businesses 3 or 4 times. We're not connecting with the right person. In some cases, we've had one or 2 businesses actually bring 4 different sets of documents and still haven't gotten to the level of precision that we are looking for yet, based on the policy and the procedures that were adopted. So, in the interest of wrapping this up, because we understand that one, these businesses need this money. Alex and I have been talking about this over the last 3 days. As you read their accounts of what this money is used, it will absolutely break your heart if you know to read how these businesses have been affected during this pandemic. And so, what we would ask as a means of moving forward are 2 things. One, that you would make that using that precedent as an example, you all would make a policy determination that the cost of ongoing administration associated with this program, along with the risk of not getting this money out the door, basically outweighs the value that the process is delivering at this point. And so, one, we would ask that designation is made, and then 2, to ensure that we were still meeting your direction to us and our obligation to the public. We have a recapture agreement that Alex drafted for us that we've been collecting on all of these. One of the things, I think Alex would tell you, one of the issues have been, we have struggled even with some of these businesses to get the recapture agreement correct, because the information that they submitted on a W-9 or whatnot does not match what they put at the top of the recapture agreement identifying the company. And so what I would tell you is, for us, it's very simple. The information on the check should exactly match the information on the recapture agreement. Well, here's what's great. We're writing the checks, and so we have that information. Because we can uniformly apply that standard to all recapture agreements, we would, at this point, ask that you allow us to basically complete the processing of the checks so that all of the checks are written. Prior to those checks being signed, we would use the information that is on the check to fill out the top of the recapture agreement. We will add an initial line next to the top of the recapture agreement so that the company can initial that that information is accurate. And the company will sign the bottom of the recapture agreement before we turn the check over to them. And so I will tell you what that does is that the recapture agreement, one, is important because it allows ongoing auditability, but also what it does, it is the agreement that we made with the city auditor to ensure that any gaps that he found in his review were closed. And so at the end of this process, I'm going to have to turn over a stack of recapture agreements to Lyndon's team, and they're going to go through there and make sure that every one of them basically is signed, and they're going to check a box next to whatever company they reviewed and anything they might have identified there. And so I have to have that. But I think if we do this, what it will do is, one, our staff can work together. We've got to cut the checks anyway. We fill at the top of this recapture agreement. Once that's done, and we have the signed recapture agreement, we turn over the checks. I would say that we could turn this around in a week, but Sean has got to physically produce all these checks, so I would ask you for 2. And then 2 of you have got to come in and sign them all. So I would tell you that just mechanically that will take a minute to effect just with scheduling. But if you all are agreeable to that road forward, I believe that we can complete this process very quickly. And Alex, were you going to jump in?
And I think one of the issues is that the recapture agreement has a couple of exhibits. We control most of them. It's the application, it's the resolution, that's fine. But we're asking for leases, and we're asking for a statement from the company. We don't always have those. And so what we're asking is that we be allowed to get the check out the door, so long as it's been reviewed by the auditor, and the recapture agreement might follow behind. So.
And in the event that we find that someone lied to us, well, I mean, we understand that we have an obligation to go get our money back.
Is this the paperwork that was due 3 weeks ago or so?
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's a fast turnaround. I mean, it's incredible. And did you respond back to the companies saying, we received your data, your information?
We have. And so I'll recognize Jeff, and then in the back of the room also Tasha, who's been helping. She's with the Women's Business Center at Old Dominion University, has done great work, as well as Vicki Kelly on our staff and Sean as well. But we have all of these businesses have been contacted at least 3 times at this point to let them know that they were approved, and to give them an idea of what information we're waiting on.
And have you had many people, because that was a quick date that they had to get the information in, have you had people call up and say, hey, I didn't know, and
We have. We've
it's up to 25,000, I believe?
Oh, so the second pool of money.
We're still dealing with the first pool.
Yeah, we're not even on the second one yet.
This is the first $2.5 million,
I
though.
was gonna say, that's over
Yeah,
the top.
no.
Okay.
So,
We're still trying to get the first tranche out the door.
so happy to offer an update on that in a moment. But yes, as it relates to this is just so that we can wrap up that first pool that we are struggling to get out the door. But as Alex and I have worked it through, this fits within precedent that this body has already established. It fits within policy guidelines that you already have, and it gives us the ability to complete this process that honors our obligation to provide these documents back to the auditor.
So they would still sign the recapture, just the process of making sure we have all the backup
The
exhibits.
is going to be the issue. But the auditor will have reviewed or had the opportunity to review or every single one of these. So we have that comfort of that level of scrutiny.
And so the problem is, we've been hearing, and the hue and cry has gotten louder and louder from companies that have been awarded these dollars that have not yet seen any of this funding. So this is an attempt to make that go more quickly so that we can get this money out the door, so that we can be prepared to get the next round of funding out the door. And I would encourage us, I know that staff feels like they've reached out to people, but in the hierarchy of communication, nothing beats a phone call. So if you've emailed somebody and you haven't gotten a response, please make a phone call, because, while it's very important for us to attract new businesses, to help grow the economy in Virginia Beach, we need to take care of our existing businesses, and we need to make sure that this money that, as you said, they so desperately need, gets in their hands, gets to their landlords, so that so that we can move forward with the next batch of funding.
We'll do. Thank you.
Another question on the Part E, the first round. So we've got 2.1, but we have 2.5 million available. There's 400,000 has not been awarded or approved yet at this point. I know we have applications for some of them. They seem like they're stale. What is the plan going forward to distribute the remaining 400,000 or solicit new grants?
So, if you can, give me till the close of business today to figure that out. So, and here's why I mentioned that. What's most important to me is, one, that we get the 2.1 that you've already approved out the door. We received, to Mr. Standing's question from a moment ago, the first application portal for the CARES Act Small Business Assistance has closed. It appears, at least on the surface, that is going to be the way that application was built, sort of a lessons learned out of this process, is going to be far more efficient, and it's going to be far easier to get the money out the door. My recommendation is, my brainstorm thought standing here would be that other 400,000 be allocated to that program consistent with what we've already done, because we already have procedures adopted for that. It's something that we can do very quickly. We could even work with the pool of applicants that you have not seen yet to help them get through that more efficient process. That said, though, I'd have to talk to Alex first of all to see, is that something that fits within policy? Can we do it? That second, the remaining funds are really from a subsequent council appropriation. These were not EDIP dollars from the beginning. So there's an opportunity to have a conversation about specifically what council appropriated them for. But standing here, we may very well have to stay with EDIP party based on the appropriation was there. I need to do that research to know. If it is, then we would go back to the pool of candidates, utilizing the process that we're approving here today, potentially, to try to expedite the payment of that last 400,000 quickly.
Would you provide an administrative update to all of us at
Absolutely.
some point later this week?
Yes, thank you.
Well, I suspect since the CARES Act dollars can only be spent for certain things, that we probably need to use this predominantly bread assistance money from the first tranche and finish out whoever was in the queue for that.
Sure.
I think it would be difficult because it's completely different reimbursement
Absolutely. And so,
mechanisms for each of those.
so here's what I'll say. So my hope is that if assuming that the action that we're talking about here moves forward, if that allows us to expedite payment to the extent that I think it will, then there's a fairly easy way to burn through the rest of that money utilizing Part E. But I'll tell you, I just don't know that standing here today because we're not that far yet. But I'll share that. I'm happy to provide the administrative update. As we see that this is working, then if it's your will, we're happy to reopen the board.
Thank you. May I hear a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all very much, and thank you, Taylor. Any commissioners have anything to add? Welcome to our newest commissioner. We're really happy that you're with us.
Maybe you want to let him talk about his background a little bit? since he
Would
is
you
there?
like to talk about it?
Sure, sure.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for the honor to be part of that whole group here, and I think I got some big shoes to fill with Peter Miller. And I came to US in '91. I actually went to Canada, went to Georgia, went to South Carolina, and came to Virginia Beach 2008. Right now I work for IMS Gear, worked there now 12 years since I moved here to IMS Gear is worldwide manufacturer of gears, mainly automotive. We got about 3,500 employees worldwide. 300 employees are here, 280 or so right now. And what we manufacture here in Virginia Beach is the gears for the car seat moving forward and backwards. So we got about 60 to 70% of the US market coming from Virginia Beach right here. And yeah, it's a strong market. It's also a struggle sometimes getting the right workforce. So that's also why I'm the vice chair of the Workforce Council of Hampton Roads, trying to get education for employees up. That's one of my targets. And for me, it's really important to be involved in the community. I mean, I was part of Neptune, I was part of the Workforce Council, and now here, so trying to be involved.
Thank you so much. And you're from Bavaria.
I am, yes.
Wonderful area.
Northern Bavaria, Franconia.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Let's see, director's report.
I have two things, Madam Chair. First is, well, I'll give a quick update. It occurs to me, I owe you all an update on the second round of CARES Act, which I didn't get into that one. So quickly, as it relates to the CARES Act, we received 117 applications for the second pool of funds that closed Friday at 5 p.m. We've pulled down that pool and have begun review now. You all will remember the process that you approved allowed for, call it a 3-week rolling application period. So we're open for 3 weeks, we close, we evaluate for a week, we reopen for 3 weeks with the remaining capacity we have. And our plan is to continue doing that until either December 31st or the money is expended. The great news is with this first 117, we have enough money to fund them all. So you'll remember that the procedures you approved called for us to do this by lottery. The lottery won't be nearly so different for these early adopters who came into the first pool, because we've gotten more than enough to, by any means, work through all eligible applications. One of the changes that we made to this, and you all will remember last month when we were talking about this policy, I raised my hand and admitted a mistake that I made with EDIP Part E in the interest of trying to engage as broad a business pool as possible. We allowed for on-site submission as well as electronic submission. What ended up happening was we created the online fillable form thinking that would be the way that people would do it. What in effect ended up happening, given how small some of these businesses were, they would fill out the online form, take a picture up with their cell phone and submit the cell phone file. And so, or would print it off, fill it out, bring it in paper. And so, and that you know, it's one of those in the world of trying to engage the broadest possible population of businesses. We created. I mean, that decision more than anything else has probably created the majority of the administrative hurdle that we have had here. But I'll just tell you, it came from an intent to get to as many businesses as possible. Fast forward to this pool, though. The only way to apply for this is online. It's a fillable form. Every field on the form is mandatory, so you can't move forward until you have filled out the entire document and attached the receipts for the amount of money that you have. So for those reasons, we feel like this process will run more smoothly, because we should, in theory, have complete information. Now, the one exception there would be if someone submitted fraudulent information, and but I think the risk of that in this pool is very low, because again, this is based on reimbursement, so you would have to submit actual paid receipts, funded invoices, things of that nature to demonstrate that you had incurred these costs. So I think that review of these will be much faster. We are pulling those. We pulled the applications down. We're looking at that pool now, and I anticipate that next month we'll have a first docket for you all to approve, and our hope is that we will reopen the application window. Well, it would be Monday morning, and so just a quick refresher on this: up to reimbursement up to $25,000, and of actual expenses incurred to deal with the pandemic, going back to March 1st, running until effectively whenever present is, i.e. when we run out of money.
So I'm guessing you're probably around 2.5 million plus or minus in applications if people were approaching the max on this?
That feels right, yes. I mean, but we're admittedly, it closed, the portal closed Friday afternoon. What I can tell you is the total of what was submitted is in that range, yes sir. What I can't tell you is we've not had a chance to actually look at the actual invoices to assure that the applied total aligns with the submitted total. That's going to be our biggest that's going to be our biggest sort of internal audit check at that point.
Point being, we're a third of the way there.
Yes sir, that's right.
What is that portal?
Portal is, so, again, to ensure that that this ran smoothly. Instead of running this out of our department this time, we worked with our colleagues at City Hall. And that's important to note, there were 3 types of assistance. There was assistance for businesses, assistance for individuals, assistance for not-for-profit. And so we worked with city communications and the city's IT team to put together a unified portal so that all business, everyone in the community seeking assistance through the CARES Act goes to one place. And if you're a business, you select the business tab there. That's on the city's website. It's also linked to our to your website here, so that as many businesses as possible can see it.
And there were postcards that went out, because I got a postcard that,
Every address in the city got a mailer on this one. So in EDIP Part E, basically by the time that you all, well, I would tell you the day that you all adopted your procedures, we notified in the neighborhood of 11,000 businesses. But there was a number of those were multipliers. Who represent businesses like the Hampton Roads Chamber, like Hampton Roads Economic Development Alliance, the entire Virginia SWAM list, our small women and minority owned business list in Virginia, as well as all anyone who is on the purchasing department's contact of small women and minority owned businesses in Virginia Beach. And so again, I say 11,000. You could actually sort of grow that by the number of people who are on this list. But there was still some concern about who did not hear. And so this time, to ensure out of an abundance of caution that everyone got the word, we worked with our colleagues in City Hall, and we sent a postcard to basically every address in the city.
Well, to Lisa's point, for you all to spend the amount of time you have and care in this, it's such an important thing that you've done. I got a report from the National Restaurant Association today that says 100,000 restaurants have been out. And if CARES doesn't step up in the next 3 months, 40% will be gone. And our city has, and this group has really paid attention to that. Thank you. Thank you enough.
and with this money, it's got to get out the door before December 31.
December 30th.
Or it goes back to the federal government.
That's correct.
Got to get it out.
That's right. So I have one more thing. And Madam Vice Chair, now Madam Chair, I'll let you make that presentation if you want.
Oh. I don't have anything, but I assume this is for the outgoing chair.
That is for the outcome.
Oh, thank you.
So there should, did our gavel not arrive?
It's in there.
Oh, it's in there, okay.
Thank you very much.
Nothing like telling what's inside.
That's right.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure
surprise.
if we,
Golly.
have to unwrap.
You don't need to open it now.
So she has to open it in front of everybody.
Oh, okay, well, Dot, this is for
Thank you very
you for
much.
your years of service as chair of the authority.
Still be here as trying to keep our businesses going, and thank you. I know you'll do a great job.
Well, thank you, you've done a wonderful job for the residents of the
you.
city on so many
Thank you.
levels. Thank you.
And I appreciate you all so much. All of you worked really hard.
So I should not have wrapped it.
That's okay.
And so, as you know, our chair is not rolling off today, but we did want to get something
Thank you very much.
to commemorate her time as the chair.
Oh, that is wonderful. Thank you so much. In a long time, and I so appreciate it, and I appreciate all that you all have done. It's been a tough few years, and that's probably why I mentioned it with the other year, but it wasn't a good time. And I
So we
really,
have to see you use your gavel one more time.
okay. Now we go into.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Before we go into close, can I just ask,
Yes, sir.
for item number, the EDIP item, we had, Commissioners Murphy, Franklin, and Brunke had filed partial abstentions on the underlying.
Original, yeah.
I would just ask that the clerk incorporate those previous abstention letters into the record
Yes, sir.
from both.
Out of an abundance of
Out of
caution.
abundance of caution,
Because
both.
we're not voting on any individual.
Correct, but just to make clear that
Thank you.
there was an interest, and I should have picked it up there, but I
That's okay.
got
Thank
excited
you.
by the discussion.
We appreciate you reminding us, yes.
That's a good catch.
Yeah. The chair will entertain a motion to recess into closed session pursuant to the exemptions from open meetings allowed by 2.2-3711A Code of Virginia as amended for the following purpose. Publicly held property. Discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose or for the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A3. Prospective business or industry. Discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or expansion of a business where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A5. Contracts. Discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditures of public funds, including interviews of bidders and discussions of the terms or scopes of such contract, where discussion in open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to 2.2-3711A30. I hear a motion.
So moved.
Second.
William Brown,
Aye.
William Brunke,
Yes.
Taylor Franklin,
Yes.
Lisa Murphy,
Yes.
Mike Standing,
Yes.
Joe Strange.
Yes.
Dot Wood.
Yes. You want to shut the door?
Untitled.